Today's episode is brought to you by Patreon. If you're interested in supporting the show, go to patreon.com/JoshuaVelas and become a $2 backer today and get early access to the new episodes. I'll be leaving a link in the description down below, but for now, on to today's episode. You're listening to the Augmented Experience podcast. I'm your host, as usual, Joshua Velas. I'm a student, musician, and a gamer at heart. Join me as I sit down every week to talk about all the latest news in the technology, business, and video game world. I hope you guys enjoy. Alright everybody, welcome back to the show. My name is Joshua Velas. I am your host as usual, and obviously welcome back to the show. Today's episode 252 of the show, and before we get started, we're just going to do a little bit of house cleaning quick, because, well, it only makes sense that we do it around here, so let's just get on with the house cleaning. I do want to say thank you guys for coming back and listening. It does mean a lot to me. You guys constantly take time in your days to download these episodes, to share these episodes, to constantly keep letting me know how you feel, whether you like my stupid face or not. At the end of the day, you greatly appreciate it, and I greatly appreciate you. So thank you guys for everything. I do also want to apologize, because I know that we had, the poll and everything for an episode last week, but let's just say school was not on my side that time, because we had a lot of stuff, to be honest with you. Like, we had an exam on Thursday, exam on Friday, bunch of homework, certifications due. It was just, to be honest, it was a mess, and I really just did not have an opportunity to properly put the episode in the, in the schedule and things like that. So so this episode is essentially from last week, except we're just doing it this week. So bear with me. I do want to say thank you guys for being patient with me, because I know it's just kind of, school's starting to finish off, and it's just like, it's like that feeling where it's like, you literally see the finish line and it's just trying to get there. But anyways, but I think it's kind of important that we actually did this episode this week, because this week's episode, or in this case, last week's episode, was talking about the Nintendo eShop shutdown. And it's funny because, that happened this week on the 27th. Today is the 29th, so it's been 2 days since the eShop has shut down. And so let's just talk about some of this stuff, because this has always been a point of contention for a lot of people, because when you think of the Nintendo eShop, this is primarily focused towards the WiiU and the 3DS. Yes, obviously the Wii U as a platform was not the most popular. Let's be objective here. It really wasn't. It wasn't a popular platform. There was a lot of confusion behind the marketing and everything behind it. But the 3DS, on the other hand, was definitely a popular platform. A lot of people really enjoy the 3DS and the platform, a lot of the games on there, whether it be eShop exclusive games, which we'll touch on that later, to even just the actual first party games and third party games that came out on the platform. It's one of those things where, it's sad that it's gotten to the point where now the eShop is gone and it's shut down. So obviously you can't buy anything on there. You can still re-download software and things like that you already purchased beforehand. But anything regarding, DLC and things like that, you can't buy it anymore. And in many ways for me, looking at this from an objective standpoint, does it really matter? No, but it does matter in the sense of game preservation. It does matter in the sense that a lot of the games that were on the 3DS eShop were locked behind the eShop, so they could only be acquired through it. So now that the eShop is down, there's no way to legally acquire these games. I preference that with legally, because we're going to talk about that too. Because people have mentioned that, yes, because now the eShop is officially down, the fact that Nintendo already doesn't even offer repairs for these suckers anymore. So this is going to start opening up more and more things to the community, whether it be, obviously the homebrew community on the 3DS has been incredibly popular. It's easy to the point where it literally takes 15 minutes to do, and it's not hard to do it at all. I'm going to be transparent with you. It is very easy to basically homebrew your 3DS, and then you download eShop, which is the homebrew marketplace that basically allows you to download any game you want very easily. And at the same time, because now that the eShop is now shut down, I wouldn't be surprised if this leads to people making third-party parts for the 3DS, how, prime example, we have with the Game Boys, the Game Boy Colors, the Game Boy Advances, the Game Boy SPs, how there's custom shells, there's IPS mods, there's battery mods, speaker mods, you get what I'm saying, like membranes, etc., that it's not going to surprise me if we eventually get to the point where people are doing this kind of stuff for the 3DS, because to be honest with you, that was one of the downsides with the 3DS, was the fact that the screen. Yes, with the 3DS, there was the IPS lottery, which would be, you could either have the top display be a IPS display, the bottom could be one, both of them could be, or none of them. And this was always one of the biggest things that bothered people, because you just never knew which display you had. And yes, there are ways that you can do it both, physically in person, or even like homebrewing it, and it will, download a piece of software and it'll tell you what they are. But it's one of those things where we still have to wait and see. And yes, for me, obviously, I've stated this multiple times, whether it be, even before the show and things like that, the 3DS to me has always been my favorite console. Like when I grew up with it, I grew up with a Nintendo DS. I had a DS Lite. I remember what color they were, both the one that got stolen and the one that didn't get stolen. But I grew up with a red DS Lite, and then I got a blue DS Lite. And then eventually my parents bought me and my sister both a 3DS. My sister we basically both had the red one. And eventually when I was in high school, I had purchased, this is when I was already working at McDonald's. So I was like at this time I'd already started, so I was able to save some money. So I was able to buy the new 3DS XL, because I saw that my friends had the 3DS XL, and I was like, hey, I kind of like the bigger feel. So when they came up with the new 3DS XL, I was like, okay, I'm going to buy this. And, because I had money, so I was able to buy it. And I bought the Hyrule Warriors edition. That was the one that I stuck with until I eventually sold it like a dummy. And my friends, when they got their 3DS XLs, the new 3DS XLs, they ended up buying the Galaxy version, which is the one that I have right now. And then one of my friends, he ended up buying the Pokemon 25th anniversary one, which was a very popular one. And now you look at it, it's hella expensive. Yeah, but I look at it all. And yeah, it does suck, to be honest with you. It really does. It sucks that the eShop is down, but granted, we knew this was coming. They told us a year in advance that this was going to happen. And so it just feels kind of weird that it's finally gone. And this also does sting, again, for the conversation of game preservation, because let's be real, Nintendo is one of those companies that a lot of people have issues with, in the sense of getting access to their older games, that there's no legal way to acquire these older games, because like obviously they had the virtual console before. That was on the 3DS, the Wii U, that they had the virtual console, so you're able to buy these older titles and own them legally. And eventually Nintendo got away with the virtual console, and then, obviously created the NSO. And yeah, it's all behind a subscription, so you no longer own them. Now it's behind a subscription, which pissed off a lot of people. And granted, you see how NSO is expanding now, where you have the N64, you have the NES, the SNES, and now you have the Game Boy and the Game Boy Advanced. And so it's not going to surprise me eventually get to the point that we add the GameCube, and then who knows if they're crazy enough, they end up adding the Wii on there. I highly doubt it, to be honest with you. But Nintendo has shown time and time again that they are not the best when it comes to acquiring games legally at an affordable price, because you look at games like from the GameCube and things like that, a lot of those games are extremely high in price, primarily like Gales of Darkness is another one, Pokemon Coliseum, a lot of the, what's it called? Like Metroid Fusion, you have F-Zero games. So it's just like, and the same thing with like the Wii U, there's a lot of games on there. It's just, we run down this rabbit hole of Nintendo just not making it easy to get access to their, older games. And the fact that even with a lot of exclusive games that were only on the eShop, it just makes it kind of rough, because a lot of these developers are basically getting shafted in the end, because they're like, well, no one will be able to get access to our games, and they're quote unquote lost to time forever legally. Because think about it, yes, you could acquire these games through nefarious means, if you want to call it that, but the developers get screwed because they're not getting paid off it. So it's one of those things where it creates this argument for Nintendo just continuing to show time and time again that Nintendo, yes, while they can do good things here and there, like releasing phenomenal games or, doing things that are quote unquote beneficial to the consumer, or releasing products that people like, they also show that they can be very ugly when it comes to game preservation. Again, dealing with issues like, say, the Joy-Con drift and things like that, how they still don't even want to acknowledge it as an issue, even though it clearly is to this day and always has been. The fact that we still have no official word of the next generation Switch, about what the next generation console will look like, because let's be real, the fact that Nintendo was able to get a 2015 tablet to survive as long as it has is a miracle of God, to say the least. And because even though the Switch came out in 2017, the X1 chip that's inside of it, or the Tegra X1, is from 2015. So this is a tablet from 2015 that is able to run all of these games. Does it run them flawlessly? No, because we obviously see the limitations. But it's one of those debates where Nintendo has continued to show us time and time again that yes, while they can do good things here and there, they still do a lot of very poor decisions for the consumers. Primarily, like, we could sit here and talk about it forever. But in many ways, it is sad. However, I will also say this, though. If you're interested in buying a 3DS, or even downloading or buying games physically, you have to be mindful that these things are going to skyrocket in price. Like, it's just the objective facts here. The physical consoles themselves, the 3DS, 3DS XLs, I would say the new 3DSs are what everyone's really going to go for, unless you want just special editions and things like that. But realistically, if you're going to homebrew them, you should just be going for the new models. But they are going to go up in price. That's just the objective facts here. I think physical games will also go up tremendously because of their value. And even though, yes, there were millions of copies around the world, you get what I'm saying is, like, they're going to become harder and harder to find. And that's the point that some people are getting at, that it's going to create this FOMO effect of fear of missing out, that you won't be able to acquire these games both physically and legally. Well, now you can't even acquire them digitally legally, but the fact that you can't even acquire them physically legally is also going to be an issue. So at this point, it's not going to surprise me if homebrewing just ends up becoming the go-to, that people are like, look, pay like the upfront cost of maybe $200, $300 for this sucker, but you can homebrew it and then you have all your games. It doesn't matter. Even though, yes, some people will think it sucks because they won't be able to have them physically, but it's just the cold, hard reality, But then we also go into possible future scenarios where we see people like making modded parts for them, like, IPS displays, which, to be honest, once that happens, I am definitely going to be doing that mod very, very easily, because I really would like an IPS, because that was always one of the issues with the 3DS, is that the display quality was not the best because of the resolution and also, the quality. But I feel like once we have these nicer IPS panels on them and things like that and improved resolution, I think we'll be fine, to be honest with you. But so let me know what you guys think in the comments down below. Are you sad that the eShop is gone? Do you not really care? Or is this just going to spur you on to, maybe if you already have a 3DS, homebrew it and, explore the capabilities of homebrewing? But let me know what you guys think in the comments down below. Again, I do apologize, this episode is coming out a week later. It's just, scheduling, school, not the best, to be honest with you, homies. I'm going to keep it real with you. But I do greatly appreciate that you guys are patient with me and that you guys understand where I'm coming from, because, school is always going to be the priority in this case. But I love you guys to death. I hope you guys continue to have yourselves a wonderful week and weekend. Don't do anything dumb. And yes, I am also aware there's been countless other news that has come out throughout this week, and I'm going to be honest with you, we will talk about it, but we'll save that for another time. But again, I hope you guys enjoyed this episode, and as always, don't do anything dumb, and I will see you guys next week. Bye, guys. Hey there. Thank you for listening to today's episode. I really appreciate it. Thank you guys so much for taking time out of your day and listening to today's episode. If you're interested in supporting the show, whether it be financially, clicking the follow button, or just sharing the episode, it all works for me, guys. Thank you guys so much for your time, and I love you guys to death.